Alright guys, it's time we talk about the open beta for Monster Hunter Wilds. If you're heading in right now or on the 31st when the PC version launches, there are some things you should know in terms of what you get access to and what is limited or missing from this version of the game. We're going to also go over some tips and tricks, and let's jump right in. And of course, if you haven't been paying attention, I am doing a giveaway for Monster Hunter Wilds Deluxe Edition on all platforms, and I'm going to announce the giveaway winner pretty much 1 week after the beta is over. But in the meantime, you can just participate by being a subscriber of the channel, leaving a like on the video, and obviously commenting down below if you want to participate. So right from the very beginning, no, there's no Smithy available in the current beta. If you go ahead and check out at the Smithy in the main camp, you're going to notice that she doesn't have anything ready and you cannot really interact with her. This is also because you can't actually craft any armor pieces in the current version of the game. However, you can do so with traps and potions, and you can also get a bunch of armor sets additionally by checking your stash over here at the tent, either the one in the main city or basically any other tent that you have created. But basically, if you head over in the second category, you can see that you can pretty much change to any of the 3 or so armor sets that exist over here. These are the options that you have, including some of the abilities. I'm not going to lie, the yellow one is definitely my favorite because it also gives you some extra damage bonuses, but you can obviously go with others. There's one that provides extra stun resistance, like the default one, and another one that just makes mounting creatures a lot easier. But again, I prefer this one, so this is what I mained about 90% of the time. Speaking of that, here is where you can also get any additional potions or any additional traps. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of each of these in your stash. So if you have none of them left, go ahead and just grab them from here. Another thing to note is that you can now also have a primary and a secondary weapon set, so you can bring them with you in combat. Yes, you can even switch between them in combat. You just have to jump on your secret and basically switch to your other weapon by pressing left or right on the D-pad. This is going to let you alternate between the two, and you can obviously do so at any point during the combat if you want to just switch your style up or if you have a better option for the foe ahead. Now, in terms of the combat, I do have one big tip to pay attention to, and that's going to be the focus strike and the wounds mechanic. Now, wounds work pretty much the same as always. As you attack the same body part, this eventually is going to cause wounds to appear, and the more you attack the same body part, the more those wounds will open, inflicting more damage to the target. But you can take advantage of these by using the focus strike mechanic. The focus strike is something you can pull off by pressing L2 plus R1, which is going to let you take advantage of all of these to deal more damage, stuns, or gain extra buffs depending on the weapon type. You can of course just check out if the enemy has any open wounds by pressing L2 and seeing all the red highlights on the enemy's body. But from this point on, if you also press R1 while holding L2, you will perform a focus strike, and like I said, for most weapons, including the longsword, you're going to cause these wounds to explode, dealing large amounts of damage and even stunning the enemy right away. Like most of the time, they will fall on their backs or on their side, letting you follow up with even more damage. But in certain scenarios, like in the case of the insect blade, you can also get some extra benefits, like the focus strike for the insect blade will harvest all of the 3 extract colors at once from the same enemy, which means immediately getting the buff right away, letting you jump straight into your more advanced and powerful moves. Now, there's an even easier method to apply wounds than repeatedly hitting the same body part, and that is by jumping on the enemy's back and using your knife to just slash at it. This is going to just do it in a few hits, and you can do so 3 or 4 times on the enemy's back. So this includes the head, the middle body, and sometimes even the lower body depending on the enemy's size, which means at the end you can detonate at least 3 of those open wounds, maybe even up to 5 if you also applied a couple more on the enemy's limbs. Which, as you can see, the more of them you stack, the higher the damage is going to be, so you definitely want to play more with this mechanic. And also to make up to some of the nerfs, like Insect Blade no longer seems to have any of those infinite or, well, 5 consecutive bounces that they used to have back in Monster Hunter World. So unfortunately, that's out of the question now. You have to pretty much play with only one jump, then boost yourself in the air and do another bounce again. But from this point on, I do want to praise the game about the open world and the seamless co-op and also the seamless transition towards missions. You don't have to pick missions from any logs. You can still do so if you want to, or even still create missions in the logs for you to follow and start like you used to do in Monster Hunter World, for example. But you can also just do it straight from the map. You're going to see in real time if there's any boss pretty much around you or in your current zone. You can see them moving, the direction they go to, and you can even see if other players attack it currently so that you can go ahead and join them. So this is going to give you all the info you need, and once you get close and attack them, you're going to see that the quest for them automatically starts as soon as you put in a few more hits on them. And from this point on, you can just follow it the normal way, take it down, and this is going to then finish that mission automatically once you have also taken down that boss. And guess what? Once you're done with that mission, you're not forced to go back to any of the hubs. You can just finish it right there and then resume the open world gameplay. Even go to another mission, take down another boss if you want to. There's pretty much no restrictions in terms of that. But this also brings me to the next point, which is your sacred, and this is your mount. It helps you a ton to travel and go through all of these locations. The maps are relatively big, but at the same time, it does have a few quality of life features. One of them is the automatic travel to your destination. You just have to put a marker on the map, be it randomly or at any boss location, and as long as you mounted your secret, it's going to just travel there automatically for you. You can also increase the speed with R1 or reduce the speed with R2, even stop it dead in its tracks, but it's going to be very helpful because on the way you can enter pretty much any menu, so you can plan ahead, change key bindings, even change your weapon, apply buffs, eat food, and so on and so forth. Plus, you can also use your whetstone on mount back, both in and outside of combat, so this just makes things so much better. You don't have to be stationary when you do it in case your weapon really needs it. Now, on a similar note, I also want to talk about the environment, which is extremely useful at taking down enemies. You're going to see a lot of collapsible structures, especially around pillars or inside of caves. You're going to notice some of these bosses jumping on pillars and trying to attack you from the distance, but if you jump on your mount back, press L2 and then look up, you're going to see a circle prompt from this point on, and if you pull that on, you're going to cause it to collapse, in the process also causing the boss to fall down and having all of that weight drop on their head, which means an additional source of damage and a big stagger. The same goes in caves. You're going to notice a lot of these easy to grab points, sometimes multiple of them in one single cave to take advantage of. Pull it down similarly with R2 and circle, and then just make sure that the boss is beneath it. In terms of the traps, there are not many big changes, maybe with one exception, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the dung pod is a completely new trap, but it's very useful nonetheless to use because it causes all of the enemies affected by it to flee, which is extremely useful when you have to deal with enemies that walk in packs and you really want to single out only the boss or the alpha of them. So in this case, both the large and the small versions work on any target, big or small. In the case of the smaller version, you just have to aim it at one target, hit it with the dung pod, and that's going to cause them to just run away individually. So if there's 3 enemies, you have to hit each one of them individually for them to run away. Oh, and one more thing for the sacred, if you press triangle and circle at the same time, you basically jump straight into an attack right from the mount back. You can also do one manually with X to jump and then follow with either triangle or circle, but triangle and circle just does a special move that usually is much stronger and kind of propels you further away a little bit, giving you ample opportunity to follow up with other attacks. Now, on a closing note, a few more things I've noticed in terms of the game that I really liked. Of course, if you didn't have any idea, obviously both your main character, the hunter, as well as the palico, now are voice acted, so they will actually communicate both in cutscenes in the main story, but also in combat. You're going to hear your palico talk all the time, giving you help, giving you healing, and also your character mostly in cutscenes, but that is awesome. Of course, the character creation will give you ample opportunity to just change the voice to whatever you want. Speaking of that, you can also recreate your character at any tent. You just have to go over there, and right there, the last section deals with recreating your character. Now, you cannot change your body anymore here, but you can change pretty much almost everything about the face, hair, and like pretty much everything about its aspect, but not the body. So that is really awesome. This also includes the voice if you want to have a different one and whatnot. Plus, also your palico has most of the changes over there, maybe with some of exceptions in terms of the fur. Additionally, I really appreciate the seamless co-op because you can just go out in the open world and you fight a boss. Maybe it's very difficult and all of a sudden you're going to see somebody just randomly walking by and come in to help you. Or you're going in and you see a boss already being attacked by somebody else. You jump in and help them as well. The same goes in main towns, camps, and any other hub for that matter. You're going to oftentimes see at least a handful of players spawning there naturally because basically this game plays on lobbies. There are many lobbies, and obviously in the full game, once it releases, will be even more. So overall, I think that this is a really good change. You can still invite folks, you can still use SOS flares even in online so that you can get help from other players. But you don't have to if you don't want to. You can also just change the party number or the number of folks who can join you from 1 all the way to 4. Besides that, I would also say that performance-wise, it may not be the best, but the game is not even out yet. It's at least like a couple of months out, so obviously there are still some big changes coming up. So far, I'm impressed, but the performance is a bit lackluster, especially when more and more players log in your lobby. So if you have trouble with that, maybe try turning it off. In case you have any problems, you can totally just play with nobody logging in, and that may give you better performance. But still, it's a little bit iffy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.